Hello everybody, Agamatsu here, and today we're going to be talking about, is Rogue Lineage a bad game? There's a lot of things people actually hate about Rogue Lineage. Navran Fair Frozens, Shinobis, people being toxic when they grip you, just the idea of ganking in general will upset some people. However, does this make Rogue Lineage a bad game? We would have to ask ourselves, why do people think Rogue Lineage is a bad game? I actually asked this in Player General the other day, and I got a multitude of responses. Some ranged from, it's really the community, some pointed out it's the game, some pointed out it's both. A lot of people make the arguments, the game is bad because the community is toxic. And while I do understand where they're coming from, I kept trying to ask, what do you think is intrinsically wrong with the game? I understand that the community is bad, but however, one can simply argue that due to the nature of the game, you're going to have a toxic community regardless. Personally, if I had to say why I believe Rogue Lineage is toxic, it'd probably be due to the mechanics of the game. The game was actually built up to where you can't even get rid of infinite comboing unless you had to rewrite the whole game, so inherently, you could say that the game is toxic, and that's what's causing the game to be bad. So you could really say that Rogue Lineage is a bad game. However, in response to that, I think one thing that people tend to not really understand is what the definition of a bad game is. Is Rogue Lineage really a bad game if there's a bunch of people who are addicted to it? Some people could call that good design. I could say that Rogue Lineage was built up to be able to keep a consistent stream of players playing it even after a year and no major content updates. People still are addicted to the game like it's crack. So one could actually say that, yeah, that's a pretty damn good game. If you can get players to keep playing, sure, some players might hate it, but if you keep the players playing, then is it really a bad game? Because you're still able to keep the player base even after all this time, and they're addicted to it like it's crack. Again, some could simply say that Roblox is dry, and I understand that argument, but let's not forget that there's literally the PS4, the Xbox, and other PC games. There's like a bajillion games out there. So I think it's an excuse that people throw out that, Roblox is dry because you can literally just play any other game in existence, yet you're still playing Rogue Lineage, even after you called it bad. I think what this really proves is that Rogue Lineage, conceptually, I think is a great game. Conceptually, the idea that permadeath determines all your actions, it determines how the community is, the fact that you can take away somebody's progression simply by pressing a button, that's bound to make the community toxic, and I think that's the most interesting aspect about Rogue Lineage. And I don't think Rogue Lineage is a bad game. I think it could have been performed a lot better. However, I think that those mechanics that Rogue Lineage has makes it a very interesting and unique game. I personally liked what this moderator said specifically. It's not necessarily that the game was built bad, but that the game wasn't necessarily ready for how it is to be played right now. So for example, nobody really thought of infinite combos back then. A lot of people would say that Rogue Lineage back then was amazing, really fun, a blast, and that's why a lot of people quit. Times have changed, and a lot of people can see that. So there's a lot to consider when thinking about, is Rogue Lineage a bad game? I would personally say that it's a pretty well made game. It's a lot better than a lot of other things we see on Roblox. And of course you could say that all Roblox games are just universally bad. However, I think that the fact that it can maintain such a dedicated community, even after everybody calls it trash, is pretty amazing. So I definitely think that we should acknowledge that, but also acknowledge the flaws. Anyway guys, this was Agamatsu here today, speaking just on a subject I thought was somewhat interesting, and I'll be seeing you guys later. Peace.